All right, thank you very much for staying with us. I have joining us via Skype Lagos Professor Segun Ajibola. He's also a professor of economics at Babcock University in Ilisho. Thank you very much, Professor Ajibola, for your time. Professor Ajibola, if you can hear me, it's great to have you on the show. All right, I think we're having to reconnect with Professor Ajibola. If you can hear me, Prof. Okay, Prof, talk to us about what you think about Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala becoming the next DG of World Trade Organization. Let's start on that note. How did that come to you with the support from the United States?
Yeah, it's a very good development, and knowing the profile of Dr. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala, one will not be surprised. And this is somebody that will be bringing a lot of intellectual empowerment into that position. And we believe with experience and exposure, especially to international financial and economic management, is a round peg in a round hole. And of course, she has a lot to offer when it comes to trade relationship among countries, especially between developing countries of Africa and the rest of the world. So that support from United Nations, I think, is a very, very happy and encouraging development. And we expect a lot. A lot is in the offing. The stakes are very high for Dr. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala coming to this position at this point in time.
Prof, some are saying that WTO must now focus on COVID-19 pandemic and issues around global economic recovery. I don't know if that's what you think.
Well, the first thing we should realize is that WTO pursues as a major goal equity and fairness in trade relations and trade interactions, and even in formulating trade agreements and terms of trade across the globe. So whether it's a COVID era or a non-COVID era, the important thing is that the core goals and objectives of WTO have been on trial for quite a long time. So this is an opportunity. Even the COVID era is an opportunity for somebody of Dr. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala's personality to sit back, do a comprehensive assessment of how far WTO has been able to go in achieving its basic aims and objectives since 1995. And I think there are lots of issues to resolve. There are lots of interplay of forces that need to be reviewed we all know that developing countries of Africa that confronts African countries in particular, we can't export freely. As a country, Nigeria, we have been talking about encouraging the non-oil export, but where do we export to? With all the discrimination, with all the rejections that our products, natural products, industrial products, they face going to the rest of the world. A person of Dr. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala personality should look at this kind of discriminatory practices by WTO and make the standing of WTO to be that of equity and fairness in terms of trade relations across the globe. This is a very, very major deficiency in the operations of the WTO as of today. So all hopes are on are now to reverse the trend. And for the first time, let us feel the presence of one of our own, and not just one of our own. Somebody we can attest to intellectual capability, exposure to global interrelationships, financial, economic, and even international politics. So a lot is being expected during this COVID, post-COVID, and we believe that with our presence there, Nigeria and Africa will be better for it.
Prof, let's now very finally now talk about issues around bilateral trade relations with focus with the United States. We've seen President Biden, like I spoke earlier to Professor Philly, been coming out with some policies that seems to be more accommodating, if we can use that word. What do you think about our relationship with the United States moving on in 2021?
Well, that is our expectation, that President Joe Biden will be more accommodating, will be more receptive, will be more fair and more passionate about developing trade relations with Africa. But let's not be carried away. Let's not be carried away too far, because Africa as a country, America as a country has its history of protecting its territory, history of continued trade barriers, especially given their relationship with certain parts of the world. How fast President Biden will be able to demolish these barriers, I don't know. But we can say that the body language, the mindset, the paradigm shift that we expect will favor us on this side of the divide eventually. But how fast that will happen, I don't know, because of the culture of the United States of America in protecting certain legacies that benefit their own enclave, and in using their superior position to negotiate better deals for America, at times at the expense of the rest of the world, especially developing countries like ours. But we believe that with the persuasive stance of a person of Dr. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala personality, and changing the structure and the architecture of WTO, then the likes of the personalities like President Joe Biden will be able to play more softly with the rest of the world, especially Africa, than what we have witnessed in the last couple of decades.
Prof, let's now move to this it's a topical story everywhere today. It's about cryptocurrency and the directive from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, you're a professional when it comes to this sector. Now, take us through how this directive came to you. What are the positives and what are the negatives? We've had a lot of reactions since this development. Now, tell us what you make of this directive by the CBN.
The world keeps changing. So new things are evolving. Artificial intelligence, automation, robotic engineering, etc. So cryptocurrency, the most popular one out of that, Bitcoin, has come to the global landscape now. But the Central Bank of Nigeria is completely right in saying that I am statutorily in charge. I have a statute that gives me that power to determine the nature and type of legal tender in Nigeria. And as of today, cryptocurrency is not one. Nobody can fault Central Bank of Nigeria in taking that position. But the issue goes beyond what it is now. I think Nigeria as a country, we should start thinking about what it may be tomorrow. I recall that in around 2006, 2007, our belief then was that Nigerian financial system was insulated from the global financial crisis. But when the crisis arrived at our shore, everybody was caught napping. So my advice is this. Yes, cryptocurrency is not a recognized medium of exchange and means of settlement in Nigeria today. But what happens if tomorrow it is recognized as one of the means of international settlement? So I had canvassed it before, and I will repeat my position that the regulatory authorities should not sleep with both eyes closed as far as cryptocurrency is concerned. Let's start envisaging a situation where it becomes a global means of settlement. How prepared are we going to be if this currency is fostered on the rest of the world via international trade and settlement? Are we adequately prepared? So Central Bank of Nigeria should start thinking about how we'll be able to make use of cryptocurrency in the event that it becomes a globally recognized means of settlement. So we need to move from saying we can't do it today to if tomorrow we have to do it, how prepared are we? What do we need to put in place? What arrangements do we set in motion from now so that we will not be caught unaware? I think that is my position. There are lots of issues here and there. There are so many players now. There are so many that are complaining that they are already trading in cryptocurrency. But the fact still remains that Central Bank of Nigeria owns that responsibility of determining what is the legal tender in Nigeria. And as at today, cryptocurrency is not one. But tomorrow, cryptocurrency may be recognized globally, internationally. Then how prepared are we going to be as Nigeria? What do we need to do in the event that happens? What do we need to put in place? How soon do we start putting that in place? I think that is the challenge before us as a country. That's the challenge before our regulatory authorities. So that, I repeat, we will not be caught napping if eventually cryptocurrency becomes an internationally recognized means of settlement.
Prof, looking at what the central bank also said, saying that it's a direct contravention to existing laws and all of these sharp practices that this could encourage. It seems to be very sensitive, talking money laundering, terrorism financing, purchase of small arms, and all of this, you know. But the CBN issues digital currency, but not cryptocurrencies. Can we get a clarity on that?
You see, there is a matter about operators, regulators, and those who want to play the fast one. Unfortunately, fraudsters, money launderers, whatever name or alias, they are always a step ahead of operators. And operators themselves are always a step ahead of regulators. So, in this part of the world, it is just a pity that there are so many loopholes in cryptocurrency, loopholes in dollarized environment, loopholes in everything, means of international settlement, so as to hit somebody hard. And that's, I think, are the fears that the Central Bank of Nigeria was talking about. That there are already sharp practices, and it shouldn't be surprising before everybody becomes knowledgeable in the art and science of cryptocurrency. There are those who want to make a key through shady deals, and Central Bank has the responsibility to control that. So, if the steps Central Bank of Nigeria,
All right, Professor Segun Ajibola, we indeed apologize for the quality of picture and audio there regards to that connection. Well, very important topic there, saying we shouldn't be caught napping because everyone seems to be moving with the tide. Well, we'll bring you up to speed. That discussion continues. It's a big, big story, and we'll keep breaking it down from all angles for you to understand what this really means, and even for the entire business environment and for those who are involved in this transaction and businesses that have to do with Bitcoins and all of it. But now it's